Hi everyone, this is Teacher Joseph, and I'm here today to try to answer any questions that you have related to learning English. Now, I don't usually go live. I usually make some lovely video clips with my little cats. But today I thought to myself, well, the weather is terrible, so what's the options? Maybe I'll go for a walk. Maybe I'll stay at home. And then a little thought came to me to go live. Now, while we're waiting for some people to join us, let's um, let's just talk for a moment about what you need when you're learning English. Now, I'm sure many of you out there are currently learning, so I want to hear your questions. If you have a question about learning English, if there's something you want to know about learning, send it over and we'll have a little look and I'll try to help. Okay, so any questions you have related to English language, English life, English culture, studying in the UK, vocabulary, grammar, send it over and I'll do my best to help. Now, while we're waiting for questions today, I want to talk to you about motivation. Now, it's very interesting because in my job, I talk to people all around the world and I try to help them with their English. And what comes up again and again are these cultural differences between how we learn. Okay, so for example, people in Asia, they expect teachers to be strict and hard, and to be ready to punish you. That's what's expected from students. So teachers are supposed to be solid and ready to give you information, and if you don't learn it, you get punished. Teachers in Russia, in the USSR particularly, it was expected that they would be very strict and hard. But here in the West, that's not the way that we teach. We're taught how to motivate people using a system called person-centered learning. So the way that teachers teach people all over the world is rather different based on students' expectations. But I'm here today to try to help you with any questions you have about UK living, UK culture, UK language, and any problems you're having with learning English. So if you have a question, please put it in our chats and I'll do my best to help. All right, so if you have vocabulary, grammar questions, what it's like living here, any particular thing you want to know about the UK, send it over in the comments and I'll have a look. Okay. While I'm waiting for some questions, I've just been talking a little bit about different expectations of teachers. Here in the UK, a big part of our job is to motivate people, to get them ready to learn. And this comes, of course, from American psychology. They're very good at motivating other people, aren't they? So I wonder what strategies you use in order to be motivated to learn English. I'm not sure about you, but sometimes when I wake up in the morning, the voice in my head is saying kill, kill, kill. And there's not a lot of room in there for being open to much else, at least not until I've had a coffee or a tea or some kind of hot drink. One really good thing, which I've learned over the years, is that it's really important just to actually take a moment to say to yourself, right, I'm going to be open, especially before you start studying. Because when you're older, you sometimes go to a lesson about something, but your mind is closed. And it's very important just to take a minute to say, okay, I'm going to be open. Just as the thing starts, you can say, right, I'm just taking a moment here. I'm opening my mind, open to receiving what I'm supposed to learn. Very simple, but it does actually work. So if you're, about to study English, if you're about to open the book, just take a moment to say, right, before I start this, I'm going to be open to the message that's coming. You would be surprised what a big difference that makes. And I would encourage you to make that part of your day, even when you're getting up in the morning, just to say, okay, I'm going to be open to what this day is going to give me. Because if you're older, or if you're like me and you wake up and the voice is saying, kill, 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 you need an extra moment where you choose to be motivated, to be happy, to get going. So if you're struggling with motivation, just to give yourself that time to be open. I think you'll probably find that that works really well, not only with learning English, but learning anything. Just take a moment to prepare and say, okay, I'm going to be open at this moment to what this day or this lesson is going to give me. That's really, really important. Right. Well, I can tell you that here in the UK at the moment, as you can probably see behind me, it's rather a, well, dark day. I have the light on above me. It's dark, it's cold, it's kind of miserable. So the choices were to go out, to stay at home, to do the housework, play with the cat, or else go live on YouTube. So here I am. And I'm here today. We have a comment here. What's this? A person open mind when he is not sure in something, I think. I'm not sure what you mean by that. A person open mind. Do you mean a person should have an open mind? Or do you mean that open minded people are only open minded when they're not sure? Tell me more so I can answer your question there, Roman. A person open mind, so an open minded person when he's not sure in something, I think. Tell me more. Tell me more about what you mean, Roman, and I'll try to help you out there. But yeah, it's very good to have an open mind when you come to studying, you come to doing anything. Um, yeah, so I was just saying there that, I was talking about motivation, and then I kind of moved on as to why I'm live here on YouTube, hoping to answer any questions that you have relating to English life, English language, English culture. And about motivation, I was just saying about the importance of being open when you approach learning. It's really, really important. One interesting thing, speaking about motivation, one interesting thing which happens is when I speak to people around the world, they get a bit confused when we talk about motivation because they think, why should I be motivated? Surely I wouldn't be here if I already was motivated. It's an interesting point, isn't it? But that's not how the West works, unfortunately. We have all kinds of mental problems, problems getting up in the morning, problems focusing. Um, and you are right, there's an expectation that if you're at university or in English class, you will have full attention. But it doesn't work that way, unfortunately. Many people, especially here, just don't have that kind of attention span. Those of you who watch me on YouTube have noticed that I've started doing a lot of YouTube shorts, and that's because uh, it's what people want. People want to see my cat with an English word for 10 seconds. They don't want to see half an hour of English on the screen. So it's kind of disappointing, but that's the way social media is. Things move rather fast, don't they? It's very interesting talking to you all around the world and seeing where you are and what your situation is. Oh, who's this? Oh, it's Fabio. Hello, Fabio. How are you today? I hope you're doing well. Well, I'm here today talking about any questions that you have related to English life, English culture, and English language. I woke up this morning with that voice that said, kill, kill, kill. And I thought, oh, I better do something nice for the world. I know, I'll go on YouTube Live and try to see who has questions for me. So, Fabio, if you have any questions about English language, English life, or English culture, tell me and I'll do my best. I think after this recording is finished, or this live session, well, it should be on playback. You should be able to see it again if you've missed anything. So if you have any questions, please do send them over and we'll have a look. I was just saying as well that it's a very dark, miserable day. Yeah, so I didn't really want to go out because it's a little bit cold. So we were talking about motivation. Yeah, some people say, I don't need to be motivated to go to an English class. I'm paying for it. That's why I'm there. But as you probably know, it doesn't always work that way. When you work online, you meet a lot of very different people. And one thing I've noticed is that people who come online to learn, some of them either have mental health problems or they're stuck in the house, they're housebound, they might be older, and they're looking more for friendship or some kind of words of encouragement. And that's really, really important. And I'm glad that I'm here for those kind of people as well. I hear all kinds of stories, about why people want to leave the countries and come to the UK. Yeah, it's very interesting. It's very interesting. Maybe we'll have a look at some UK news headlines just in a moment. But right now, I'm waiting for your questions because I'd like to hear what you are doing today. And I also want to know what you're struggling with your English. So if you have any questions, send them over and I'll try and help. One big thing that I'm interested in is accent reduction, as I'm sure you know, and I'm always giving little tips. Let me just give you a tip now for speaking better. Very simple thing. Just make sure you're pulling your mouth down. Okay, so rather than speaking like this, just try as much as you can to pull your mouth down. Yeah, that's one of the best ways. Well, I don't see any more questions coming, so I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll just go to a news site and we'll have a little look at some news headlines here in the UK. I'm sure that it's not going to be anything cheerful because it never is, but we'll have a little look anyway. Right, let me just choose the UK news. This is going to be depressing. I just know it. Right, first news headline says drones delivering weapons to prisons. And that is a national security threat, says the prisons inspector. I didn't know we had a prisons inspector, but I suppose that makes sense. So, drones delivering weapons to jails is a national security threat. Oh, I didn't know they were delivering weapons. I noticed in the news a few weeks ago they were delivering drugs. But our prisons are being emptied. Many people are being released early because there's not enough space. Let's see, what other headlines do we have in the UK today? I'm not going to read that. That looks shocking. uh, we remortgaged to buy our kids medication. This is from West Yorkshire. Apparently, this is a woman who's given an interview, and she says that our health service is taking so long to give medication for the kids which have ADHD. That's attention deficit syndrome, is it? Is that the one where they can't concentrate, ADHD? I'm not sure, but it says here this family from West Yorkshire said they'd chosen to remortgage their home to meet the costs, with research suggesting backlogs for ADHD assessments could take up to 8 years. So a very long waiting list to get some medication, according to this news report. So very interesting. Yeah, we'll go over some more news headlines in a moment. But if you have any questions related to learning English, English language, English culture, why English people are a bit eccentric, anything you want to know about English life and culture, please send them over and I'll do my best to answer. Okay, Roman is asking, are inspectors friendly in the UK? It depends what you mean by inspector. If you mean inspectors of prisons, I guess so. We use the word inspectors for many things. Police inspectors, prison inspectors, food inspectors, hotel inspectors. Anyone who's there to provide some kind of role of protection, making things are going well, they're called inspectors. Some of them are friendly, well, some of them aren't, I suppose. I can't imagine that people who are inspecting prisons are particularly friendly, but having said that, who knows? They're probably more friendly than the guards are in the prisons. I don't know, but interesting question. Are inspectors friendly? Yeah, anyone who inspects things, whether a book is printed properly, whether YouTube meets its safety standards, or Facebook, or prisons, or food, or whatever, we call them inspectors. So I guess it depends which one. Yeah, which type of inspector. But I don't see why they wouldn't be friendly. Although dealing with prisoners must be a tough job, huh? I guess. Right, any more questions about English life and culture? Send them over. Let's see, what other news headlines do we have here? Well, these are all very depressing, huh? Really, in the UK today. Farmer rescues sheep from the snow. Oh, that's an interesting one. Let's have a look and see what they're saying. Strange they would have a news headline about this. It's a video clip and it says, "This is the moment a sheep pulled to safety." It should say, "This is the moment a sheep was pulled to safety after being trapped in a snowdrift." A snowdrift is when the snow, of course, is falling and it reaches a certain height. Hit by 40 centimeters. Oh, I'm no good with the metric system. 15 inches of snow. Sub-zero temperatures and wind meant this is the sheep, they're calling him he, was braced for fatality. A very polite way to mean that it was going to die. It is actually talking about the farmer, though, not the sheep. But with pets, we often refer to them as he or she. It says here, the farmer has said, "It's the wind that makes the drifts as bad as they are. I don't think we'll have lost too many sheep, but there will definitely be some who have died." I'm not sure if you know this, but when sheep fall over, they can't get back up. Isn't that strange? If a sheep is on his back, he needs someone to come along and turn him over. He can't rotate, he can't get up on his own. I spent part of my childhood rotating sheep, just turning them over, because when they're on their back, they're defenseless. Birds know this. Even before they're dead, the birds will come and start to eat at them. Yeah, the sheep, unfortunately, can't get back up. Yeah, that's an interesting story. We don't have any snow where I am today. and I thought the snow had gone because it's a bit warmer today. So I'm not sure um, what day that was issued. I thought it was today. Oh, it was actually 3 days ago. Okay, fair enough. Right, I'm waiting for your questions. So if you have any questions related to English life, English language, culture, please send them over. I'd love to try and help you. So let's see, what other news stories do we have? Um, oh, here's an interesting one. In case you thought that British living was all about drinking tea at 5 p.m. Inside the UK's fast legal drug consumption room. Um, yeah, this is an interesting one. This is all about a new place that's opened in Glasgow to help drug addicts. And it's the first ever place where drug users can go and inject themselves with drugs and not be arrested or breaking the law. So there's a video clip on the BBC about that. Right, here's another question. This is from Roman. Is the snow enough in this winter? Maybe global warming has an effect on that. Yeah, it's really interesting, Roman. Many people are saying that temperatures are changing. I haven't heard anyone talking about more snow because of global warming, but people are saying that the temperature is changing. Yeah, I'm not sure, of course, climate change is with us, there's no doubt about that, but I'm not sure when they present these headlines if it's really all about temperature. Because when I was a little boy, I remember some really hot summers here. And back then, people were really shocked and surprised. It seems like every year they always say temperatures are changing, are getting warmer. I'm sure it is related to climate change, but I don't really notice any big change in the weather. Yeah, but they seem to think that there is. Um, is the snow enough in the winter? Yeah, we still get snow, but usually it's between January and March. If we get snow for Christmas, usually we are quite fortunate. In fact, many gamblers here in the UK, many people in betting shops, the people who bet on horses hoping they will win. They gamble on the horses. Many people also gamble that we're going to get snow on particular days. Christmas is one of those days, and our gambling shops, they're called betting shops, they make a lot of money from that. But we didn't have snow at Christmas. Snow usually comes between January and March, and as far as I know, it's no more than usual or no less than usual at the moment. Yes, but good question. Thank you for that. Right, let's see if we have any other news headlines we can talk about. The news in the UK is always depressing, really. Always depressing. Um, Here's another really depressing story. Apparently, our main motorway, that's the one that goes from Glasgow to London. They have like a big main road. It's called the M1. It's shut right now because somebody's found a dead body in the motorway. Isn't that sad? It says here the body of a man was found in undergrowth. That just means under the bushes, next to the motorway on the M1. Police have said. It says here the M1 was closed in both directions near Watford, that's just north of London, between junctions 5 and 6 at around 3 o'clock GMT on Monday. Officers said the death was being treated as unexplained and drivers faced severe delays throughout the evening rush hour. The southbound section reopened at about 6:30, with the northbound stretch reopening just after 10. One of the 3 lanes northbound remained closed on Tuesday. So, when you're driving on the Autobahn, for example, they have different bits that you drive on. It's not like one stream of traffic. You have like 3 or 4 going on the same direction at the same time. We call those lanes. It says here officers are currently working to establish the circumstances of the man's death, which are currently unexplained. And the police will be investigating this until this evening and tomorrow. So if you are traveling on the M1, you can expect there will be some delays. So very interesting, very interesting. Right, so if you've just joined us, I'm here waiting for your questions about English language, English life and culture, anything you want to know about English life, living, language, vocabulary, grammar, whatever. So please do send them over. And while I'm waiting, I'm also reading some news stories from the UK headlines today. Not very happy headlines, I'm afraid. They all look a little bit depressing. Let me just take a little sip of my tea. One moment. Right, here's a headline, which is from 9 hours ago, and it says GPs, that's our doctors, the ones who you go to visit if you have a problem, general practitioners, GPs, they're all turning to AI, artificial intelligence, to help with their workload. So let's read a little bit about this story while I'm waiting for your questions. Right. Okay, so the difficulty of getting an appointment with a doctor is a familiar gripe. That means complaint in the UK. Yeah, I can't speak to a doctor. I can speak to them on the telephone, but I can't see them face to face. And that's really annoying. And when you can't talk to someone face to face, for me, I can pick up tones, attitudes. And I don't like that because when you're talking to someone face to face, it's much better and easier. So it says here, even when you do have an appointment, the rising workload faced by doctors means those meetings can be shorter than either the doctor or the patient would like. Yeah, my doctor's always trying to get me off the phone as quickly as possible when I talk to them. Very interesting. And actually, I heard last week as well, the doctors have now been told that they need to talk to us about recycling. And also, they need to be introducing this idea in our minds by asking us, do you recycle? Why don't you recycle? No wonder doctors have too much work if they're doing that. It says here, Dr. Deepali Misra Sharp, a general practitioner, a doctor in Birmingham, has found that AI has really helped to alleviate, that means to make easier, a chunk of the administration from her job, meaning she can focus more on her patients. Oh, that's interesting, isn't it? It says here it's made a big difference. And the doctor here, Dr. Mirza Sharp, she tells us, usually when I'm with a patient, I'm writing things down and it takes away from the consultation, she says. But with AI, this now means I can spend my entire time locking eyes with the patient and actively listening. Oh, really? Well, I'm really happy that she's able to see patients because my doctor and most doctors here in the UK aren't allowed to see patients at the moment, still because of COVID. It says here, she says the technology reduces her workflow, saving her 2 to 3 minutes per consultation. 2 to 3 minutes, that doesn't sound like a lot, does it? She reels off other benefits. It reduces the risk of errors and omissions of my medical note taking. Okay, she reels off. To reel off is just to speak quickly about this. So she's reeling off. Interesting, because we also say reeling when we're very angry. Oh, I was reeling when the doctor told me that, meaning I was so angry. So some different words there. Reeling, which can mean saying things again and again. Reeling can also mean to be very angry. You were really. Okay, so it says here, could AI be the solution to help GPs cut back on admin tasks? Well, I would have thought no, because when I ask ChatGPT a question, it never tells me the truth. I always ask ChatGPT, and then I go and ask Copilot, and then finally, if I'm still unsure, I'll ask Gemini. It seems to have a problem with actually telling me the right things. But very interesting, isn't it? Very interesting. Yeah. Well, anyway, I'm here today to help you with your English. Please do send some questions over. Anything you want to know about the English world, my YouTube clips, um, language, grammar, AI, whatever you want to talk about, something related to the English world, please do send over your questions and I'll do my best to help. Right, so that was another story from today that more GPs are turning to AI. Well, if I can go to WebMD, why can't a doctor go to AI? The rest of us do. Oh, here's an interesting one. The January wolf moon. How to see it. Yeah, so in English, probably the same in your country, when the moon is full in different parts of the year, we have a special name for it. Okay, so we have a blood moon, we have a wolf moon, we have a harvest moon. It depends, really. But the wolf moon is the moon that can be seen today. I have a little moon calendar app on my telephone, and it told me today that currently we have a full moon. I don't think I'll be able to see it at nighttime in this weather. But this article here says where to see the January wolf moon beside Mars in the night sky. Beside Mars, I wouldn't know what that is, but let's see. It says the first full moon of 2025, known as the wolf moon, will brighten the night sky alongside Mars on Monday, the 13th of January. Okay, so that was what, last night, I think? Sky gazers. We use the word gaze because we're gazing at the sky. To gaze is to look, okay? So sky gazers will be treated to a spectacular show as the planets appear to be close together. Oh, that's interesting, isn't it? So that's the meaning of gaze, to look at the sky, a sky gazer. Please do send over any questions you have about the English language, English life, English culture. I'm here to try to help. So if you have something on your mind, send them over. Right, this is from Roman again. He says AI is more help to remember something now, not to think of the side something. Yeah, you want to use the words remember there, Roman. You said AI is more help to memory something. To remember. Memory is not a verb, okay? Memory is a noun. Okay, so help to remember something. Yeah, you're right. AI is more of a help to remember something. Yes, yes. Well, if you've just joined us, we're reading some news headlines while I'm waiting for your questions. And this news story that I'm reading right now is talking about last night's full moon. And according to my moon calendar, we're still in a full moon. It's called the wolf moon. And many sky gazers last night were looking at the sky, gazing at the sky to see that beautiful moon last night, the wolf moon. We use the word gaze whenever we're looking at anything. Yeah, so to gaze at the sky is very poetic, to gaze at the countryside, but it means in a dreamy kind of way. And there's also a moral context to this. I remember when I was a teenager, you have an eye for a very beautiful person. Ha, 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 ha. You look at them, and people will tell you, oh, lower your gaze. It means you should be looking at the flower, not at the person. lower your gaze. So sky gazers, to gaze in a moral sense as well, but mostly we hear it in a dreamy kind of sense, in a dreamy kind of poem, for example. Speaking of dreamy poems, one song that came to my mind this morning when I woke up was the Carpenters with Rainy Days and Mondays Get Me Down. I don't know if you know that one. Rainy Days and Mondays Get Me Down. It's a lovely song by the Carpenters. And it's one of those dreamy kind of songs. When you're watching the rain outside, Karen Carpenter sings Long Ago and Far Away. It's a lovely, lovely song. She tells us that rainy days and Mondays make her sad. Nice song to check out. Okay, here's a question from Fabio. Teacher Joseph, can I add the suffix less to any nouns? For example, the room was windowless, tableless, chairless. Yeah, you can, but it might sound a little bit strange depending on the noun. Okay, so windowless is fine, chairless is fine, tableless is also fine, but you need to be careful with that because, as you know, with English, there's always exceptions. For example, cupless. It works, but it doesn't sound right. If you said someone, "Oh, I'm cupless," they would look at you twice and think, "What? Cupless? What do you mean?" But yes, you can, generally speaking, add less to anything, but only in the context of what you're talking about. I wouldn't try to take someone by surprise. I wouldn't walk into a room and the first thing you say is, "Oh, look, it's chairless," because people won't catch the meaning. But if you're walking around saying, "Oh, there's no chairs, the place is completely chairless," people will catch the meaning. So yes, but in a context. But it does work with most nouns. Yes, most nouns. Maybe be a little bit careful with that, We have an optician here called, is it Payless Opticians, where you pay less for your glasses. So remember, we also use less in other ways as well. So it might not always give you the meaning that you want. I hope that's helpful. Right, so we're doing some news headlines while we're waiting for more questions. I'll be here for about another 20 minutes, so please do fire your questions over if you have any. I was just mentioning there about the wolf moon. We have this thing about calling the full moon different names. Not everyone, but every few months, there's the wolf moon, there's a harvest moon, there's a blood moon because it looks red. And that's what I'm just reading at the moment. It says here, full moons are given names that reflect what is happening in nature during the different months of the year. January's full moon apparently is known as full moon because wolves were more likely to be active this time of year. So their howling could be heard more often in January. Well, wolves, really? There's an animal you don't want to meet walking down the streets. A wolf. I didn't even know we had them here. It's sometimes called the ice moon or the old moon. Yeah. And it says here there's also other moons called the Hunter's Moon on 7th of October, the Beaver Moon on the 5th of November. Beavers, that's those little animals, isn't it, that eat at the trees. The Cold Moon on 4th of December. Very interesting. And if you're interested, you can check out the rest of that story on the BBC website. Right. What other news stories do we have? Oh, yeah. Do you remember? I think it was last year or the year before, there was. I'll need to explain this because it's kind of complicated. Okay, so you have the Prime Minister who's in charge of the whole of the UK, and then you have the four nations: England, Scotland, Ireland, Northern Ireland, that is, and Wales. That's all part of the UK. But those four nations, three of them have their own governments. England's looked after just by the central government, but Scotland has its own government, Northern Ireland has its own governments, and Wales have their own governments now as well. And they're trying to kind of separate a little bit from London. They don't really want to be so associated. Well, a few years ago, the one in Scotland was a woman. Her name was Nicola Sturgeon. You might remember her. She's announced today that she's getting divorced from her husband. So she's not exactly a celebrity, but people are very interested in her private life. Let me explain about those things around the UK, those governments, because quite an interesting thing. So we have the central government, which is responsible for things like security, border control, um, taxation to a certain extent, healthcare up to a point, not completely anymore. And more power every year is given to the local government. When I say local, I mean the country governments. So you have the government in Scotland, the government in Wales, the government in Northern Ireland. It's really interesting because England doesn't actually have its own government. It's just operated as part of the central government. And it gets really, really confusing because on the news, quite often they'll announce the government today announced a change. All cats must be tagged or have a microchip put inside them, for example. And then you think, oh, yeah, good idea. But then you discover it's only for England. And you think, oh, so it's not everywhere then. So cats north of the border don't need to be chipped or tagged. Yeah, it's really confusing. And then the Scottish government will make an announcement, and that'll make national news. And then you have to Google it and think, oh, does this apply to me or not? Is this just a local thing? And the problem as well, of course, is London tends to be quite dominant and arrogant. So they'll say something, forgetting that it doesn't apply to the whole of the UK. Even with healthcare, Scotland, for example, has the Scottish NHS, so it gives more money to the healthcare system than England does, or the central government does. So, yeah, it can get very, very confusing. So, we're all big one country for the purposes of borders, but we're not one country for the purposes of certain laws. Yeah, it can get really confusing, especially with local things. For example, if I have an eye test in Scotland, it's going to be free. If I have that same eye test in England, it's going to cost me about £20. If the doctor gives me medicine in Scotland, it's free, and in England, it's about £10. So these kind of things make life very confusing. Right, we have a question here. A few days ago, you made a video about scrambled eggs. Yes, during the video, you said how many eggs, but then you changed your mind and said how much egg. And you're asking why. Yeah, that's a really good question. I remember doing that. And that's because when we talk about eggs, the thing from the chicken, and you have them all in a box, they're countable. But when you have egg that's already opened, that you're adding to a recipe or you're going to cook, it becomes how much. So, for example, how much milk do I put in this recipe? How much butter do I put in? How much egg do I put in? Yeah. So, once you crack the eggs and you put them in, they become uncountable. It's just how much egg because they're no longer separate. Yeah. Um, yeah, I was aware that when I said that, I thought, oh, maybe I should explain that these eggs, once in the bowl, are not going to be countable. The other thing as well, which is really interesting, is I spoke about whisking the eggs. But actually, I wasn't whisking the eggs, I was beating the eggs. To whisk, I would have needed the special tool, which I think was sitting behind me, to whisk them, or I could have put them into the blender to whisk them as well. But yeah, so once all the eggs are cracked open, they're no longer countable. Okay, so that's why. Hopefully that explains it a little bit. Right, so I'm here today to answer any questions you have about English life, English culture, English language, anything you want to know about learning English or living in the UK or in the English speaking world. So if any of you have any questions, please do send them over. And thank you, Roman. Thank you, Fabio, for your question about the scrambled eggs. And thank you also, Roman, for your questions too. Any other questions, send them over. And while I'm waiting for your questions, I'm just reading some news headlines from around the UK. Really interesting. We've done a few. I was just telling you there that Scotland's First Minister, the old First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon, has announced she's getting divorced. Who cares, really? But she's a little bit of a celebrity, I suppose. There's all kinds of moral headlines here, which are a little bit disturbing. Let's see. I'll just read a few of them so you can see they're very kind of like moral. Let me just take a little drink of coffee first. Yeah, it's actually tea, but it's nice, right? So just so you can hear the kinds of things, right? So drones delivering weapons to jails is a national security threat. Okay. M1 shot after body found in undergrowth. We've done those. We remortgaged our house to get our kids' medication. The Prime Minister plans to unleash artificial intelligence across the UK to boost growth. Attempted murder after a nurse had been stabbed. Police detain a teenager carrying a stun gun. Inside the UK's first legal drug consumption room, we spoke about that earlier. But everything is worded in a way which is all about this is very good or this is very bad. Let's see. This is interesting. The Welsh government, we were speaking about governments a moment ago, the Welsh government promises surgery centres in order to bring down waiting times for the National Health Service. So I mentioned earlier that we have a lot of backlogs in hospitals. And I also told you that in Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland, they all have their separate bit of the health service, so they can give more money in if needed. And in Wales, their government is a Welsh word called Plaid. I don't know how to say it. I don't speak Welsh. It says Plaid Cymru. If you're Welsh, please help me. We'd look to set up at least one surgical hub in every Welsh health board area if it wins the next election. The hubs, which separate surgery from emergency care and allow operations to go ahead, even if hospitals face high demand, form part of their plan. And that was published today. The Welsh government said progress has been made in efforts to reduce the longest waiting times. So this is what I was saying earlier. The governments around the UK are kind of trying to separate from London a little bit. They don't want to be associated with the central government. So the Welsh government changed its name to something none of us can pronounce, Plaid Cymru. I know Cymru is the word for Wales. Plaid, don't know. Government, maybe? Party? So they're all trying to kind of separate a little bit, It's really interesting where politics is going. Yeah. So That's a story for today. The NHS is likely to be one of the main issues ahead of the Welsh election because many Welsh people are waiting for operations and things. And it says here opposition parties are likely to attack Labour, that's the central government, for its record on the NHS. Now, I think the Labour Party is also in control in Wales right now. I'm not sure. I don't know much about it. And you can get all of that story from the BBC. Good luck in reading it. Some Welsh words in there. Right, what else do we have here? Please do send your questions over if you have any. Dog walker injured after being trapped under a car. A woman was left trapped under a car after being hit while she was walking her dog. The animal, which was also left injured in the crash, happened in Wales on Monday. The woman is in a stable condition in hospital after being removed. Oh, really? Oh, interesting. Oh, yeah, and of course, the Northern Irish government are in the news as well. The First Minister of Northern Ireland, that's the leader of the Northern Irish government. I already told you that there's three separate ones: Scottish government, Welsh government, Northern Irish government, and the English are looked after by the central government. So she, the leader of the Northern Irish government, her name is Michelle O'Neill. She says here pressures facing Northern Ireland's health service are dire. That just means really bad. And when people say this, they're kind of giving an anxiety that they're not happy with the central government because the central government have overall control, even though the local governments can pump more money into it. It says here about ambulance waiting times in Northern Ireland. She says there's an urgent need for reform. And she says the public want to hear what we're going to do. Addressing reporters, Michelle O'Neill said it was dire, not just for patients waiting on a bed, but also for healthcare staff. Very interesting. And apparently flu vaccines currently available for free to those aged 65 and over would be extended to the 50 to 64 age group. Yeah, this is really interesting. So basically, in Scotland, for example, once you hit 50, you get loads of things free. Once you hit 60, you get more things. And if you're in any way disabled or have a health problem, you get everything. So when they told me I had diabetes, suddenly I was invited to every possible medical treatment and vaccination you can possibly think of. Yeah, so that's just an example of how things differ around the UK. In Northern Ireland, they've just extended the flu vaccine. Scotland has been here for a while. England, I don't know. Right, so we have around 8 minutes left. Please do send over some questions that you might have about English, life, culture, anything related to language. Oh, here's one. Hi, Teacher Joseph. Many thanks for your podcasts. I listen to them every day. I'm an Iranian, so as you're learning Persian, I assume if you need any help, I'd be so happy to help. Thank you. Oh, that's great news. I think it's from Ali. Yeah, that's great news, Ali. Thank you for that. Yeah, please do keep in touch with me. Send me a message and I'll take you up on that offer because I really, really need to practice my Persian. And I'm really sad, that learning languages has become so political because when you say you're learning Persian, people think you have a political view. And I don't have. I don't really like politics. But, some people, when you take a label of any kind, they form a view about you. I told someone the other day I was vegetarian, and they said, "Oh, so you like animals then?" And I said, no, I just don't want to eat them, that's all. I don't really care about animal rights or leather jackets. I just don't want to eat meat, that's all. So about the learning Persian, yeah, I actually face a lot of criticism for that. You'd be surprised. And coming on next week's podcast, I think, yeah, it's probably one of the podcasts that comes out in the week of the 19th. You'll see me with a British guy who's as British as I am, but his parents were from Pakistan. And we're going to be talking about Britishness and what that is, because he faces a lot of issues because of his skin color. People assume he's just off the plane, but actually he's more British than I am. And I say that because he, I don't think, has lived outside of the UK, whereas I have. So he's been here longer than I have. Very interesting, isn't it? But for me, he's my friend. I don't see color. I'm maybe aware of a subculture, maybe, but then again, I'm also in a minority being on Skype teaching English. Not many of us do that. I tell people I'm a Skype English teacher, and they say, "Oh, I want to do that. What is that?" It's easier to tell people I sell beds. If I want to escape, oh yeah, I sell beds. Yeah, in the shopping center, bed shop. It's so much easier to explain than try to explain about being an English teacher. But yeah, thank you, Ali. Definitely, I need help with my Persian. Very hard to get past the basics with that because of the different scripts. And yeah, I kind of feel sad right now for Iranians and people living in other countries because I don't know why people just form quick views, you know? I remember on a TV show recently, it was a quiz show, and the quiz master, he asked the question, name a dangerous race, like car racing or something like this. And this woman, she hit the buzzer, and the man said, okay, give me the answer, name a dangerous race. And she said, Arabs. I mean, really? That's awful, isn't it? But yeah, so I'd really love to take you up on that, Ali. Thank you very much. Right, we have a few minutes left. Any final questions that anybody would like to ask? This is my first time going live on here. If you have any feedback or anything you'd like to ask, tell me. I'll try to do it more regularly to give you all the chance to ask any questions that you have about English life, English people, why we have two taps in the kitchen, anything you want to ask, feel free. Um, oh, and Roman is saying, thank you very much. Thank you, Roman. Very nice of you to be here, and I hope to see you soon. Yeah, so any questions, anything you want to know, please do send them over. If I'm not online, then you can just send me a message on whatever platform you use to contact me, whether that's italki, whether it's Skype. Feel free to reach out on YouTube or wherever, and I'll do my best to come back to you. Okay, so we're almost done. So in the last few minutes, let's just do a little summary of what we've been doing today. We've been live for almost an hour. And the idea was to give you an opportunity to ask me any questions about English life and culture. We also did some news headlines. And one of the new words we picked up from there was gaze, to gaze. We answered a few questions about climate change, about my video of the other day, whether eggs is always uncountable. So we answered that as well. And you can replay this later if you would like. Right, no other questions coming. So I guess we're going to end it there. We're almost at 1 hour, but it's lovely to see you all. Please do join me again soon. Anything on your mind, come and tell me. I won't know what you want unless you actually talk to me. Okay, so anything at all, questions about podcasts, questions about grammar, whatever, send them over and I'll do my best to answer you in one of these public forums. Take care. See you all. Bye bye. Bye.